Hi, I'm Peter Watoha. I'm game director for Robocop Rock City at Teyon.
So, Piotr, how did this game get started?
Previously, we made the Terminator Resistance game. This is something that this was actually a big step for us in terms of going in the right direction. That we felt it's suitable for us. And after we had a great receptions from the fans about Terminator Resistance. We thought, yeah, this is something that is interesting. Some old school IPs might be still, that there is a market for that. We also love their movies because we are like kids of the 80s. So remember those really good. Yeah, and then that was basically the plan to work on something like Robocop, with which hasn't had a game for a while now.
So, is this a case where like MGM Studios saw what you did with Terminator Resistance and like reached out to you, or did you reach out to MGM?
Oh yeah, it was the opposite. Yeah, so we get in touch with Nakon. We were like discovering some opportunities, and then when we thought Robocop is the right direction, we reached out to MGM.
Oh, that's awesome. And like, so like, it's like you mentioned it already. It's been a hot minute since we've had a Robocop video game. I remember there being arcade games back in the day and some ports of the arcade game. Why do you think it's been so long since we've seen Robocop in a video game adaptation?
I'm not really sure, but probably one of the things is that we have a very specific character when it comes to shooters. Because if you think about Robocop, probably the first thing that comes to your mind is like an FPS, right? And right now the shooters became like very dynamic, very fast, and Robocop is kind of the opposite. So we took that risk actually to introduce him into a video game where you walk really slow, and we wanted still to be faithful to the lore. So that was a bit of the risk how to approach that design problem. But yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with what we achieved. So, but I think that might be the reason. That's the character itself isn't very like the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about modern FPS games.
Now let's talk like in this game. You got the likeness rights to a lot of the actors from the original film, as well as Peter Wellers is also involved. Was that something that MGM did on their side, or is that something you guys had to do the heavy lifting for?
Yeah, this was definitely our idea. Like MGM gave us the green light to go for it if we want. But yeah, and we definitely thought that this is the opportunity we need to take to try to approach Peter Weir and offer him to work with us on the game. And happily he was okay with that. Yeah, and when we did it.
Robocop's such an interesting concept from a game directing standpoint. Robocop's not fast. He's not fast. He can't roll. He can't really dodge. Well, he can't. He can crouch. He's a very slow-moving character. What are some of the challenges when you're trying to implement that into a first-person game?
Yeah. So as I mentioned before, yeah, that was the risk that we took. That he's like a slow, tanky character. So the whole idea from the very beginning was to emphasis on his strength. So it's literally the strength and the power, and that he's unstoppable. And drop on the ideas like give him like fast movement or any stealth mechanics were out of the table right away. So I think that was actually the biggest challenge. I think was to find the best balance between making him like not like very super slow, and it's so the game doesn't go it won't be boring, right? But we wanted also stay true to the lore. This was like very important from the very beginning. So we wanted to fulfill that player's fantasy to get in the character that they know from the 1987 movie version. Yeah, so that was the biggest challenge.
So you guys have also like this is not just an action game. You've implemented RPG like mechanics in this as well, in terms of like talents and cybernetic augmentations. Can you talk about those systems and like how they came into conception, how they'll be used in the game?
Oh yeah, that was also one of our initial, very early idea, that we wanted to sell the fantasy for the players, so they can feel like Robocop. And if you know the movies, there's of course a lot of action, but it's not only that. And we wanted to really make the players fit into the shoes of Robocop. So he was also doing like police work, helping people, solving some situations that are maybe unsolvable for a regular person, but Robocop has his unique skills and he can do that. So yeah, we implemented actually a lot of RPG elements, like dialogue choices, some additional dialogue choices pop up depending on your skills. So, for example, if you're psychology or engineering, you can have like additional option to solve some problems. Yeah, and then when we thought that that would be like very cool to give something like that, and also to give some pacing space between just the action, just the shooting, and just to explore some of the city, talk to the characters, visit the police station, visit the iconic locations from the film. So as mentioned, we wanted to make the player feel like he's in the film that he loves.
You also have this really cool like detective mechanic, like solving these mysteries. Can you talk about that mechanic as well? Because you have your action, you have like a pyramid of like action combat, RPG mechanics, and detective work as well.
Yeah. This was also a part of the plan. As I said, that we wanted to give a bit more room to do different things as Robocop. We wanted also to emphasize on his like systems, that he can scan things, he analyze the things a bit better than a regular person. And we thought that that would be very, very cool, to do some investigations actually. They're like not really like super complicated, but it's a cool add-on and a good storytelling thing to introduce.
Speaking of storytelling, this game takes place between films, between the second film and the third film. What made you particularly want to access that hit time period in the Robocop franchise, as opposed to just taking it right after Robocop 3 or right after, or into the comic world or something like that?
So we wanted to definitely, our first like vibes that we wanted from the game was the inspirations from Robocop 1, definitely. But also we wanted to have like the more rich lore for the game. So Robocop 2 introduced a lot of cool weapons, characters, also the drugs like Nuke. So this was interesting, and we wanted to have it in game. But also there is a small thing between Robocop 2 and 3 that we thought it's a story thing that wasn't really explored between the movies and explained what happened. And we wanted to use that opportunity and tell the story about this, but I won't spoil it.
So when you are working in a video game space with an iconic IP like Robocop that you don't own, are there any challenges or limitations that you have to work with the licensing holder? Are there any things you're not allowed to do or wanted to do but couldn't do, just due to like different creative vision or pending approval from the IP license, or even the actors, if that came up at all?
Oh yeah, this is also that is true. That is a bit complicated to work with an IP with like to have those actors in the game and a lot of stuff, and of course all the small things need to be like approved by MGM. So they want to make sure it's true to the lore, it's cool, it's true to the character. So there are really a lot of small things that we need to discuss. And then make sure it's correct, but I'm not sure if I can go in any deep detail with it. So sorry about that.
Robocop has some really good music. Were you guys able to license any of that out for your game, like the main Robocop theme from the original '87 film?
Oh yes, we did that. That was also something that we knew right away, that if it will be only possible to get some of the iconic score. To have it in game, this is what we want to go for, and happily it was possible, and we did the same approach that we did for Terminator. So we've licensed the music, but we reintroduce it by our own, so that the soundtrack is actually made by us, but we can of course use the iconic tunes and elements from the soundtrack that is known.
The Robocop universe is very serious and dark, but it also has moments that are just completely ridiculous, over the top, like almost humor. I mean, I'd buy that for $1, those kind of scenes. Was it hard? Do you have that in your game? And if so, was it hard balancing the action serious side with the humor side of the Robocop universe as well?
Yeah, I agree that was really important to get that correct vibe from the game. As I said, we wanted to make sure the player feels like he's in the movie. So the part of the satire and the dark humor is of course very important, and it was very important for us as well. Yeah, and I don't think it was like a big thing to make it side by side, the action and the humor, because those are like two kind of like separate things. So we have those action parts, and of course a lot of rich narration part that the satire and the dark humor is in, and I hope we did good with that, that representation of that old vibe.
So we're going to be exploring the city of Detroit in your game. How big is the city in scope? And is it like, and I hate to use this term, but is it like a full open world? Is it a hub world? Is it a section-based world? Kind of give us an idea of this world we'll be exploring in Detroit.
Yeah, we call it semi-open world. So basically, it's a hub world. It's not like huge open world. We don't use like vehicles to travel between the locations, but you have some like free exploration. There's a couple of blocks to explore, and you can also revisit some of the places. And there's also a lot of like unique, more straightforward levels, like you've seen. Maybe if you just did the demo, there was like the TV station was like more straightforward level, and then you had that hub world for some exploration and some side quests and interesting interactions. Yeah.
Peter, like in the Robocop universe, especially in the comics, things get pretty wonky. He gets a lot of really cool augmentations, like he can switch out his hands with different type of weapons. I know you mentioned in your gameplay demo he can pick up weapons and use other weapons, but will you have like augmentations for his hand where he can take off his hand and put on that really cool thing we saw in Robocop 3 with the rocket launcher and the flamethrower and like this big multi-tool thing?
And I could say kinda, but not really. We don't have like those. There is some small stuff, but nothing like something like rocket launcher or flamethrower. We from the start we wanted to be closer with the vibes and to the first film. So we didn't want to go with that. Actually, with that matter, we don't want it to go like over the top too much. So you don't will experience jetpack, for example.
No jetpack. No jetpack.
No jetpack. We don't have any driving. You can only travel from hub to level or something like that, but you don't really drive your vehicle.
So everything is done outside of the car, right? So you load it into a hub and then you explore the location on foot.
You can compare it like to games like Deus Ex, for example. It works very, very similar way.
What was the decision behind that? Because I think it's a good one, because when you have driving, it implies like huge open world that you can explore it at will.
Oh, I would say basically the scope, because if you want to go with full open world with some police chases with big open city, it could be a bit too much. So we wanted to focus on a smaller, I would say, narrative thing with a lot of cool stuff, but we didn't want to overshoot the scope for the game.
No, and I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention OCP. Can you talk about the relevance in gameplay and in the story that OCP plays in Robocop Rogue City?
Oh, it's a story thing, so I don't want to go in any details right now, because almost at launch. So I would like really to first explore what the part of OCP is, what's the part is in the story, but it's an important one. I can only say that.
I've heard that they analyze like how you handle a mission, and they like kind of give you like a grade, or like the story will kind of bend in how you handle a certain mission in certain ways.
Yeah, that's true. That's actually a bridge between the gameplay elements and the story narrative. So you indeed have a chipset that analyzes your behavior, and this is also a story thing, and same the gameplay element that tracks your progression, and the better you do, the more experience points you get. So like we have like those two things coming together.
And then Peter, the last question I have is when does the game come out, and what platforms will it be out at launch?
Yeah, Robocop Rogue City is coming November 2nd on PS5, Xbox, and PC.